The Appalachian Mountains have a way of swallowing people whole. Not literally, of course, but in the most disturbing real-world sense. Someone steps off a trail, vanishes from view, and never comes back. What starts as a normal hike, camping trip, or family outing can turn into a mystery that lasts decades. That's what makes these cases so haunting. They don't begin like horror stories. They begin like ordinary life. And somewhere between one step and the next, everything changes. In this video, we're looking at several Appalachian Trail and Smoky Mountains disappearances that still have no clear answers. Some may have been accidents. Some may have involved foul play. Some have clues that point in opposite directions. But all of them end the same way, with someone missing and the mountains refusing to explain why. On June 14, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin was spending Father's Day weekend with his family in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. He was near Spence Field with his father, grandfather, and older brother when a few boys decided to play a prank on the adults. Dennis split off from the others, and within moments he was gone. The terrain made everything worse. This was steep, wooded country where a child could disappear instantly. Then a rainstorm moved in, wiping away tracks and scent while temperatures dropped through the night. For a 6-year-old dressed for summer, that was a serious danger. A massive search followed. Rangers, volunteers, Boy Scouts, horse teams, helicopters, National Guard members, and even Green Berets joined in. At one point, around 1,400 searchers were involved in a single day. More than 56 square miles were covered, and still nothing was found. There were leads, but none solved the case. Footprints that may have belonged to a child were found near a stream, but officials believed they may have been left by a Boy Scout helping with the search. A man named Harold Key later claimed he heard a scream and saw someone carrying something red, but investigators said the timing didn't fit. Dennis's father believed his son had been taken, and that theory has never fully gone away. Officials, however, lean toward the possibility that Dennis became lost and died in the wilderness. An animal attack was also suggested, but no blood, clothing, or clear sign of violence was ever found. By the end of June, the active search was called off. Dennis Martin was never found. Scott Lilly was 30 years old when he set out on the Appalachian Trail in 2011. He was from South Bend, Indiana, and not the kind of man most people would picture as a hardened wilderness expert. But he had a strong interest in history, especially the Civil War, and the trail seemed to call to him for reasons that were partly personal. He hiked southbound from Maryland toward Georgia, and by late July he had reached Virginia near the Priest, a rugged stretch above 4,000 feet. Sometime around July 31st, contact stopped. That was the last point at which anyone is known to have seen or heard from him. A little over a week later, hikers made a grim discovery near Cow Camp Gap Shelter. They found a body in a shallow grave. It was Scott Lilly. The scene made it immediately clear that this was not a simple wilderness death. Someone had tried to hide what happened. The medical examiner later ruled the death a homicide by suffocation. Some of Scott's belongings were missing too, including his backpack, trail shoes, a Nintendo game, and a trail handbook. Investigators never gave a clear public answer about why those items were taken. Because the killing happened on federal land, the FBI took over and worked with other agencies. They interviewed hikers, collected evidence, and searched miles of trail. But despite all the effort, no suspect was publicly identified. Scott's case remains unsolved, and the worst part is that he disappeared on a route used by hundreds of hikers all the time. Before Derek Lewing vanished in March 2012, his family had already noticed changes in him. He had started drinking and smoking, which they said was unusual. He also seemed unhappy with where his life was heading. Then, on March 15th, he didn't show up for work. His roommate and family began searching for answers. On Derek's computer, they found searches related to Great Smoky Mountains National Park and a hotel reservation. That suggested he had made some kind of plan to go there, but the details only made the case stranger. On March 17th, surveillance footage showed Derek leaving a motel in Cherokee, North Carolina, at about 4 a.m. He was carrying only a day pack. Later that morning, his white Ford Escape was found at Newfound Gap. Inside the car was a note that said, "Do not follow me." The SUV also held maps, a tent, a sleeping bag, food, cord, tools, and lights. It looked like he had prepared for a serious trip, but most of the gear was still in the vehicle. His wallet and cash were there too. That contradiction has haunted the case ever since. Search teams swept the area, but no dependable witness ever placed Derek in the woods. One theory is that he went there on purpose and intended not to return. Another is that he planned a short walk and ran into someone. But there is no body, no blood, and no definitive sign of foul play. More than a decade later, Derek Lewing is still missing. Louise Chaput was 52 and loved the outdoors. In November 2001, she decided to hike alone after a trip with friends fell through. She drove from Quebec to New Hampshire and planned a short stay near Pinkham Notch Lodge in the White Mountains. On November 15th, she asked where she could take an easy walk and was directed to Lost Pond Trail, just across the road from the lodge. That detail matters because it was supposed to be a simple stroll, not a dangerous backcountry journey. Yet she never returned. When her boyfriend reported her missing, search teams went into brutal weather. Winds were strong, snow was blowing, and wind chill dropped below zero. Her car was still in the parking lot, but no clear trace of her was ever found. On Thanksgiving Day, her body was located. 2 days later, the medical examiner ruled her death a homicide by stabbing. No suspect was ever identified. Another strange case is Thelma Melton, known to friends as Polly. On November 25, 1981, she went for what should have been an easy hike on Deep Creek Trail with 2 friends. The weather was warm, the trail was familiar, and nothing seemed dangerous. Then Polly suddenly sped up, went over a rise, waved once, and disappeared from sight. Her friends assumed she was joking around, but she never reappeared. Search dogs found her scent at the point where she vanished, then circled and howled as if the trail ended there. No belongings, no struggle, and no clear path away were ever found. Investigators considered several theories. She may have become disoriented, may have left voluntarily, or may have been taken near a road. But none of the ideas fully fit. Polly was declared legally dead in 1988, yet the National Park Service still lists her as missing. These cases are unsettling because they all begin so normally. A child on a family trip, a man on a long-distance hike, a woman taking a short walk, a hiker trying to clear his head. None of them started like a disappearance story. They started like ordinary days in the mountains. That's what makes the Appalachian Mountains so haunting in these stories. Sometimes the explanation is an accident, sometimes it's violence, and sometimes, despite every search and every theory, the mountains keep their secrets. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true mystery stories.